On this episode of Star Trek Universe, we're talking about Strange New Worlds 208, Under the Cloak of War. Right after these words from our mystery sponsors.
Welcome to Star Trek Universe, the podcast where you get to listen in on two lifelong friends just yammer about those guys up in the stars. My name's Matthew Carroll, in primary colors.
You're in primary colors?
I was gonna scooch it. I was gonna edit that.
Well, you can't now.
Into my other phrase, but you've ruined it.
Yeah. No, I'm David C. Robertson, following suit on this episode in Shades of Grey.
Nice. This episode's got shades of gray.
Yeah, that was my point.
Let me say, I believe this to be possibly, and it's not landed the plane yet, this season of Star Trek may be one of the best seasons of Star Trek.
Just overall.
Yeah. Like, we haven't seen what the overarching story is going to be with the Gorn.
Uh-huh.
Or, like, what they're going to do with that in these last two episodes. But, like, just talking about, like, hit and miss ratio. Like, batting 1,000 kind of thing.
Uh-huh.
Like, I don't think there's a bad episode of this season. The Spock being human episode was a little silly, maybe. But, like, I think mostly it was me. I was the problem more than the show was. But, like...
Yeah.
I think this show has this season has had so many killer episodes. The Lower Decks episode, amazing. This episode, just a tour de force, and then the Khan episode. Like, those are three for the storybooks. You know what I mean? Like, I said that about the Khan episode when it happened. I was like, this is why I watch Star Trek. This episode is why I watch Star Trek. Mm-hmm. And I think this is another one where I'm like, yeah, this is why I watch Star Trek. This is exactly why, and I freaking love it. There's so many Star Trek tropes in this episode that, like, feel like Star Trek.
Yeah.
But the ending is so gray, and it so walks that line, man. Like, he kills, like, it's premeditated self-defense, which is really walking the line there on the, like, on the is this wrong scale, and I think it's freaking amazing.
I am not convinced he killed him.
What do you mean?
I'm not convinced he killed him.
What do you think happened?
Well, I mean, they obviously meant for it to be ambiguous, because when we actually see them again after he's been stabbed.
Ambiguous? Sorry.
Ambiguous, yeah.
Ambiguous.
When he's laying there, we literally see, like, the Klingon with his hand around the handle of the dagger that's sticking inside of himself, and his hand drops. So there's something to be said for the possibility that he killed himself out of shame.
I don't think that's in his character. I definitely think M'Benga killed him. Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it was just self-defense. Premeditated self-defense, as you said.
Yeah, I really think it was. Like, he was like, leave me alone, walk away, don't start this fight. He opened the thing, got the dagger ready. He was ready he wanted to kill that man very badly, and he was just like, just give me a reason. Just give me a justified reason. And he tried to get him to walk away. He didn't try to kill him. He didn't want to kill him, but he was ready to kill him in the moment he got the chance. And as soon as it was morally justified that he was, like, being violently attacked by this man, he stabbed him in the heart. It was, I didn't think it was ambiguous. But, you know, maybe we'll see if others felt the same way. I just think that was such a crazy ending. And then for it to be like, not only premeditated, but like a genius alibi that, like, oh, that weapon was the Butcher of Jagal. Like, the Butcher of Jagal held that weapon. That's got the blood from the other three people who died there. How would I, a lowly doctor, have that weapon? Like, clearly he attacked me. Like, Oh my lord. It was like he had carried that weapon around with him his entire life, waiting for an opportunity to kill the man who had put him through what he'd put him through. Like, I just think that is, you talk about like how the weight of like some pain like that and carrying it with you, carrying that like revenge fantasy with you and how it hurts you as much as it hurts someone else, you know. He's literally carrying this knife with him throughout the galaxy, waiting for an opportunity to stab this man in the heart.
Yeah. Like, personally, I want to believe Mbenga did it. Like, it seems to be that's the indication, except for the fact that they showed it behind, you could only see that they were kind of moving around behind that screen. They purposefully didn't show the actual final confrontation. And they made a point of showing the Klingon with his hand around the handle and it falling to his side.
Oh, I think that's just that classic, like, oh, you stabbed me, you know. But yeah. I just don't see, dude, this guy is not a guy who dies from shame. This is not an honorable Klingon, and he knows it. Like, and the only thing he wanted to do is he wanted to kill Mbenga in that moment because he'd been found out that he's not honorable, you know, by anyone's standard. Like, I just don't think there's any way this particular Klingon kills himself out of shame. Like, he's known the whole time what he did and that he ran and that these people died at his hand. And then he's been knowing he's been just a treacherous fucking Romulan over here. Sorry. Space racism is funny.
Well, at least he's not a bloody spoonhead. Bloody Cardi.
Yeah. Okay. I know we've talked about Cardi and Cardi B before. I'm sure we've made that joke before, but
think we have.
When you said Cardi, I couldn't help but like through the modern lens think Cardi B.
I forgot she was a thing.
Oh, okay. But no,
I'm not up on a lot of the new stuff, you know.
Yeah, I hear that. Yeah, so freaking good. Like, yeah. I love this episode. I love it so much.
So it did bother me, though. The one thing that actually bothered me in this episode, because this episode was just fantastic. Mm-hmm. I loved it. I knew like the kid who was upset about like becoming a soldier, and I knew he was gonna die. And when he like suited up and was like, "Don't worry about that. I'm a soldier." Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the trope. Yeah, you're gonna die soon.
Yeah. He's gonna get fridged for the sake of Mbenga becoming the man that blue guy tried to. It's just such. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt your thing, but this is such a classic structure. It's the structure of resisting the call. Like the Andorian at the beginning is like, you got to do this thing. We need you to do it. We know you can do it. We know you have this Black Ops opportunity. You've got this. And he's like, nope, resist the call. And then that guy dies, and that pushes him over the edge, and then he goes into it. It's just such a classic storytelling episode on top of such a morally gray ending. I just fucking love it.
But I didn't even have a problem with the fact that kid who decided to like buck up and do the job. I wasn't even like shocked that he died. Like, I knew he was gonna die. I wasn't like, but I didn't feel bad. Like, what I'm shocked about is that I didn't mind it, because I've seen every 3 episodes of MASH. I know how this is gonna go down.
I was gonna say, when this episode started, I thought you'd love it. As soon as it started, I was like, "Oh my gosh, it's MASH Star Trek! You're gonna love this episode."
You know what it was? It was MASH mixed with the first episode of Firefly.
Oh yeah, no, the background was definitely that. Anyway, you were saying the thing you didn't like, and I've interrupted you.
The thing I didn't like is probably that I can't remember what I was going to say. Son of a damn.
Flawless episode is what you're saying. Flawless episode.
Shit.
Maybe we'll come back around to it.
Yeah, maybe.
Man, when Chris walks into the room and questions Mbenga about it, like, he's lying. They're lying on this freaking report, but like he's still like, I didn't start the fight, Captain. And it's true. He didn't start the fight, but he didn't say the rest. Oh, it's so good. Okay.
He just kept saying, please leave me alone.
Yeah.
My problem is how they ain't going to have like cameras. I mean, they could probably look at security footage.
I would think, even though it's military and blah, 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 there's probably privacy stuff with the cameras inside the medical bay. Maybe? I don't know.
Yeah. You know, I feel like every time they do like a court martial or anything on Star Trek, they've got like weirdly specific cameras that like play out everything like they're in a holodeck.
Well, and they play out the episode often. It's like,
yeah.
I mean, you know, Pike is an example. Just like we had the origins of Pike.
We had the what?
I said the origins of Pike are an example of that exact thing.
Oh, no, that one doesn't count because the Telosians were projecting that onto a screen with their minds.
Oh.
Hashtag the menagerie magic.
I hear you, and I will say, like, I think it's possible there were cameras in there, but also, like, the whole thing is there was just a scuffle, right? Like, also, M'Benga knows where the cameras are if there are cameras, so, like, that might be why he turned the way he did and opened the case the direction that he did, you know? Like, there might be a very specific, like, way he turned his body and was like, don't do it. Don't do it. You don't want this sauce, buddy. And like, and then once the guy attacked him, he had the knife, you know, ready, and then like smuggled it into the fight, and then they think that guy brought the knife, you know,
right?
It's
I'll say this. I'll say this. Like, I was shocked that I didn't see the twist coming.
Which twist?
I knew that he was like going into war. I knew he was gonna go like kill some folk. But then, like, he's talking to the dude, and he's like, basically, I know you're a charlatan. Basically, I know you're a coward because I am the Butcher of Bagal. Like, I was like, what? I don't know why I didn't piece that together, but it was so good.
Yeah, it was really good. I figured it out at some point along the way, but not that early in the episode. And like, it really, even if I didn't know for sure he was the Butcher of Jagal, I knew he was in that fight because the way they shot that fight, they started telling the story of the fight and they showed him killing all those Klingons, and then
it was showing Bagal. I said Bagal.
Yeah. It was showing whoever the warrior that was killing them was, and it's saying it was him, whoever it was. M'Benga was flashing back to it, so M'Benga had to have been there. First off, and then as it's happening, they never showed the face of the hands. They keep like moving the camera and just showing like the suit of the person who's fighting and the sword play or whatever, or the knife play, and then so I knew something was up with that. Like, he was there. The story isn't real. Something else happened, but I didn't really think about him. I definitely didn't think he would call himself the Butcher of Jagal, which is not true. Like, I think that is him projecting his own like guilt about what he's done, like the blood on his hands. Like, I am the Butcher of Jagal, because the Butcher of Jagal is the man who ordered the firing on the civilians. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, that's what makes that man the Butcher of Jagal, not that he killed his 3 lieutenants. And the fact that the Klingons call him the Butcher of Jagal is true. He is the one who did it. And so there's this like information barrier where this guy's saying, oh no, it was my lieutenants. They just call me that. It's like a weird PR thing because I turned on them and now they call me the Butcher. But like, no, he did it. And it's such a, even like this episode could have gone so many ways, and it, like, M'Benga is like getting revenge, but it's also this moral purity thing where he's like, no, you can't be a representative of the Federation. Like, we can't, even if you're a very effective one, even if you're doing great things for the whatever, like, it is all dishonest, and I can't stand for it. As the man that I am, I can't stand for the Butcher of Jagal being a representative of the Federation or whatever.
And I loved like the dynamic between the two groups of Starfleet officers, the people who served and the people who didn't. Like, and how different they came to it. And I'll be damned, I liked Ortega's this episode.
Mm-hmm.
Melissa Navia, God, she knocked it out of the park here. I don't like when they make her angry for real. Like when they give her more than quippy one-liners and snark, when they give her like some real depth.
Yeah, well, she's so often the sort of almost attempt at comic relief, and in this case, she was the the classic like racist Starfleet officer, and like with like sort of reason that because she's had such pain in her past and such all this war. Oh man, another moment in this episode I freaking loved was when they backed up the pattern buffer of that one guy.
Oh,
and Chapel's like, I can't delete him. I can't do it. And then I'm gonna cry thinking about it. M'Benga reaches over her and presses the button for her because he knows it needs to happen, but he knows she doesn't want the blood on her hands. But then she gets to see in real time one pattern buffer disappears, but then they start rolling in, and it's like you sacrificed one because many more can live. And it's just never has it ever been more clearly represented the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. Like, it's so beautiful, and they didn't have to say it. It's just so freaking beautiful.
My question is, did he know this trick because of his daughter, or did he learn this trick here and then later use it for his daughter?
I think we have to assume he learned it here and had later used it for his daughter. Which is
it better that way.
I like it better that way too, and that's a really, really good catch, Dave. I did not connect those two things. That's beautiful. Oh, that's beautiful. One for the books, man. This is such a good episode.
This is great. This is great.
I have no negative notes on this episode at all. I just freaking love it.
I just have a question about the camera work, but as far as like the security cams, but for all I know, Pike had him scrubbed and was like, "Whoops, there was a problem." I would also love to like see that come to a head later.
Oh yeah. Like the fact that he did this, like it's really interesting on a show when there's a secret like this. That isn't one that's necessarily important. Like, no one needs to know this ever. It could just be a secret that binds Chapel and M'Benga together. They're the only two that know. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That would be fantastic if they kept it that way, because I loved seeing the origin of their bond.
Yes.
Here. And
the origin of their bond back on the war planet, but then like at Jagal, but then here it deepens. Her being willing to go to bat for him.
Yeah.
Which the one thing that is interesting, she's the one behind that screen watching them fight. So it's not even clear that she knows the secret.
Right.
But I think she probably does. Like I think I know
how the season should end.
How's that?
Chapel and M'Benga are taken to jail. They should just end every season of Strange New Worlds with the one more person thrown in jail
and Lower Decks from now on.
Yeah.
Just like they did with, was that season 2 of Lower Decks?
Yeah, it was the same ending.
Yeah, it was. It really was. That's really funny. But no, I think this is likely to stay a secret forever. But I mean, it colors his character in this very interesting way where in the future, if someone's not willing to do the thing he thinks is right for like regulations or whatever, and then he pushes back against that, like, no, it's not right. I don't care if it's regulations. Like, this isn't right. From now on, we have this to point to. Like, he's money is where his mouth is. Like, he cares about doing what's right, not what, has to be done or whatever.
Right.
Because of
unfortunately,
regulations.
even the Starfleet officials have to put on the captions to understand what he's saying.
I don't have that problem. You say that all the time. I think M'Benga sounds great. I don't know, man. I don't have it. I don't have that issue.
He is a walking Christopher Nolan mix.
I love his voice, and I love I love the way they mix him. I don't know. It doesn't bother me at all. Well, you said we have a couple of feedbacks. You want to check? You want to get into them? Want to see what these guys are saying?
We did, but I would love to say this really quick.
Yeah.
I loved the bio bed bit.
Oh yeah,
I loved it so much.
So good.
How did he put it?
Some things are broken in a way that they'll never be right again, or something like that.
Some things break in a way that can never be repaired, only managed.
Mm-hmm. And then he walks out of the room, and then it blinks a warning sign again, like this under the surface thing is still there, and it's just it's him. The biobed is him, clearly, and it's so crazy, man. M'Benga has been through a lot, and like we didn't know all of this last season, but like after last season with losing his daughter the way he did, and her like ascending to be some crazy, gas cloud being. I wonder if that'll ever come back. Like, I don't know, man.
She's just hanging out with Wesley Crusher. It's all happening.
Yeah. And now we know like what really led to all that, like where his character comes from, and what he did in the war. It's so wild, man.
Yeah, it's great.
Think about this. Now that we know that the pattern buffer has to be rebooted every once in a while to save people's lives, what if that had happened to him in the sick bay with his daughter? Like, or did it ever? You know what I mean? Like that.
I'm glad we didn't see that.
Yeah, I mean, because this is written the other direction, there's no way we would have. But there was definitely, I mean, they had that moment in that episode with his daughter where they were like, all right, we need to purge the pattern buffer, and he's like, no. Like, but we need to. We're doing maintenance, and he's like, nope, you can't. It's my transporter. All right, sorry. Yeah, no, great call. Yeah. I forgot about the biobed bit, and that's so good.
Yeah, I loved it. Great episode, and such like, I don't know if this is the best season of Star Trek ever so far, but I will say it is like the most tonally rampant. It's just been like all over the place with tone.
Yeah, I mean, like, I think this is starting like. There are a few bad. There's one bad one, just straight up bad. It's that those who eat lotus flower or whatever.
Oh, I didn't think that was a bad episode. It just wasn't great.
I remember hating it. I think we were pretty rough on it, if I remember correctly. At least I was. I don't know. I just remember it wasn't terrible. It was fine. It was serviceable as an episode, but like I think that was fairly bad. Like it was very unexplored. Go listen to our episode about it. It's hard for me to remember all my complaints at this point.
I will say, because I forgot to say it in the episode, one of the things I loved about that episode is they were going back to the planet that they had just left from in the cage.
No, you did say that in the episode.
I did say that, but I didn't point at the fact that once they got to the planet, they were stuck in a cage.
Wait, I think you did say that.
Did I?
I think so.
I was cursing myself later because I was like, damn it, I didn't point out they were in a cage.
I think you did.
Well, we'll see. Y'all go back and tell me. I don't remember these things.
Yeah.
We've got feedback from Tim Castillo.
Let's hear it. Tim!
He says, M'Benga likes a double, and so do I. What a week. In the crossover, I was taken aback for a moment when they had Spock doing his weirdness, but then I thought I could definitely see this being a plot in Lower Decks. They cartooned the show up a bit for that episode in more than one way. I thought it was great. And even with all that, the scene between Boymes and Chapel in the turbo lift hit hard. I thought it was great that we actually had some strong character through lines in what would otherwise be a bottle episode. I would have expected more shock and curiosity from Boimler and Mariner when they learned that Pike knew his future. I was delighted by this episode. Me too. He says, and then after that lighthearted jaunt through space-time, we get flashbacks to Disco Season 1 grittiness. Phew, talk about whiplash. That Klingon was without honor. Strong episode. I loved the whole episode. Until the last half of M'Benga's log. After what he had just told Pike, the way that he started the log felt like it was telling the audience that his killing the ambassador did not weigh on his conscience. He's just logging about solving a problem that day. Then it became a parable about a biobed, and then the biobed played along. I think the biobed flashing an error and shutting down was really the bridge too far for me. Was that biobed a topic of interest previously in the episode? Yes, it was. Was this set up somehow? Yes, it was. Was it a Chekhov's biobed and I missed that? This felt like a campy horror movie style of a joke tagged onto the end of a really well done episode. Am I taking crazy pills or something? Evidently. Maybe the endings of some other properties lately have just left me changed, broken. It's not
in a way that can't be repaired.
It's not them that I hate, Podcastian. It's what they made me become. They set that up at the beginning of the episode. They
did. They talk about the fact that ever since this thing broke, it's just never been the same. We're constantly having to fix it, and that just that ties into his character. So yeah, I did not. I definitely didn't think it was over. Like it's. I hear what he's saying. It's definitely like a horror movie shock trope at the end when it shoots to air right before it cuts to black. But I just think that's representative of his mental state, and I loved it.
It felt very Twilight Zone-y.
Mm-hmm. Oh, for sure.
Yeah, so I liked it, and give me a little cheese sometimes to hammer home something.
Mm-hmm.
As long as there's not a damn hope speech that fixes everything, I'm good. And we have Stu Little, of course.
Stu
says, is M'Benga gonna have to cut a bitch? Yes, he is. Dakra is played by Robert Wisdom. What, is he going to advocate for setting up a space Amsterdam for legalized drugs? What? No fans of The Wire here? Nope.
I am. I get it. Funny.
I get it.
It's funny.
He says, quote, "My name is Erica Ortegas, and I talk the shit about visiting dignitaries." If Dakra was pretending to be any more of a self-loathing Klingon, he'd be saying, "Our second penises are more like little nubs." I bet he beats his kids when he finds them sneaking off to eat gach. I can't say that word. I know what it is. Gach. Yeah. Instead of the chicken parmesan he's lovingly prepared before taking them to see a live performance of Guys and Dolls. What the hell?
Stu. He's a self-hating Klingon. It makes sense.
Yeah. Give it up, Clint. You're too late to make a run at Jeffrey Combs' throne at most prolific Star Trek actor, or a character actor. He's like the longest running Star Trek character actor or actor. Yeah. He's been, across the board. Like,
like he's going to be hard to beat ever for,
he's
once Majel Barrett passed, I think like he's probably pretty close. I think, now he's passed her for how the length of time he's been on an episode. Because what season of that was? What season of Trek was that?
He was in the first season, third episode of the original series.
Wow.
Corbin Might Maneuver. He was Baylock. He was Grady in DS9 in Past Tense Part 2. He was Muck in Enterprise Acquisition. He was in an Orion in Discovery. Will You Take My Hand? He has the distinction of being the actor whose appearances span the longest time interval in the franchise, 56 years, having filmed The Corbin Might Maneuver in early June 1966 and Under the Cloak of War in May 2022.
56 years. Wow. And I mean, like, that's just like, I don't know that anyone will ever beat that. Because you have to be a child actor who grows up to be like in the show as an adult, I mean, I guess I guess it's possible. 56 years. It just depends on how many more he does or how many more years he's able to pull that off.
Yeah.
Because someone could be 20 and play in their 70s and still be on there. But
yeah, man,
that's wild.
Stu continues, "It's nice to see a more ground level look at the Federation Klingon War, given how Discovery was a bit more top down." I agree.
Totally.
And the episode ends with M'Benga getting away with murder after he is, after all, still serving on the Enterprise during TOS, so no surprise. The deed actually felt like more of an end of Act 1 thing than the climax of the episode, don't you think? No.
I see what he's saying. That could...
I don't. I disagree completely.
It's okay. It's okay. Your different parts can have different opinions.
I disagree with my dick all the time. No. And yes, Stu is my dick.
That's why his last name's Little. Yeah.
I won't deny it.
All right. So what? I see what he's saying. Like this would be. It's kind of what we were saying earlier. Like, will they go back to this? You know, it feels like something that is left unresolved. It feels like a thing that like could have been the end of the first act, and then they have a court martial, and then there's a whole thing about it. You know, they could absolutely do a second episode where this is the inciting incident that causes a whole court martial.
Yeah,
but that's what's so beautiful about it, man. You don't normally have like the ending is not normally the killer gets away with it, and it's like and it also is not normally the killer is the doctor, you know, like it's so good. This like using the weapon that the Butcher of Jagal used is so like clever and crazy, and it has this like Glass Onion vibe, like what's that Blanca, what was that Rian Johnson set of movies? Knives Out and Glass Onion, and I forget the name of the... Do you know what I'm talking about?
So. Not really.
Oh, dude. Oh. There's Rian Johnson made a 2-movie series, and they're coming out with a third one in the next year or two. One's called Knives Out, one's called Glass Onion, and they're...
Okay.
The idea is it's sort of a modernized version of like a mystery story, a whodunit. It's sort of in the light of itself. Yeah. There's a lot of like sort of meta, like the way we tell mystery stories, and it has Daniel Craig is like the master detective, and he's like helping the police, and it's amazing.
You really had me at Rian Johnson. He made the best Star Wars movie.
I'm pretty close to agree with you. It's one of my favorite Star Wars movies for sure.
I love how you laugh because you know it's an incredibly divisive
for
opinion.
Sure. Like we're on a Star Trek podcast. We're probably safe to say it here. But yeah, I've definitely expressed that opinion on for me it's that one, Rogue One. Those are the top two, and right behind them, Solo. I'm just kidding. That was not his.
No.
Like, I will say I
haven't seen Solo.
Oh,
I haven't seen
okay.
Rogue One.
Okay. Oh, man.
Oh.
Rogue One is. I was gonna say Rogue One is the only one that like edges it out for me. Like those two are right there together. Yeah. But for me, it's hard to love the. What's the Rian Johnson one called? Last Jedi?
Last Jedi, yeah.
Is it Last Jedi? Okay.
It's Last Jedi.
Yeah, Last Jedi is hard because like it's so undercut by the next movie that it's hard to it removes my investment. But like the style and like the themes of Last Jedi are so much cooler and better to me than like all of the stuff any other Star Wars movie. Rogue One though is just like straight up a war film. Inside of the Star Wars universe, they do like just a straight up war film, and it's really good.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I've been informed that I would love it, but I haven't gotten to it yet.
Solo, to me, like there's some stupid stuff in there. There's stuff they shouldn't have done. Like, spoiler alert: there's a scene where he gets his name, and it's stupid. It's stupid. He goes to like a security checkpoint, and they're like, "What's your name, son?" And he's like, "Han." And he's like, so stupid. He's like, "What's your last name, kid?" And he doesn't have one because he's like a street rat or whatever. And and he's like, "I don't," or maybe he's trying not to tell him because he's wanted or something like that. And he's like, "You alone?" He's like, "Han Solo," and he gives him his name because he's alone, which the whole point of his name is he's the loner. Like it's already a hat on a hat. Like it's already, he's like the smuggler loner. who has like the one Wookiee friend. And then and then you put the extra hat of he was given that name because he was alone. Like, it's so dumb. It's stupid.
Yeah. Sounds more like a lantern on a hat. I don't really mind it.
Yeah, lantern on the hat's probably a better way to put it. And we are way too far down on the analogies here. But it's I actually think that Solo is much better than a lot of people do. I think it's kind of a needless movie because a lot of people didn't want. The problem with Solo is it is Han Solo becoming the Han Solo we know. Yeah. So like he starts out as like a hopeful dreamer. Like that's his whole it's hopeful dreamer to ending as scoundrel. Like that's the arc of the movie. And so or ending as like a heartbroken scoundrel, basically. So the people were like, this isn't Han Solo, because it's not. You can't have Han Solo as the protagonist of a movie. Han Solo is the side character that's the more interesting character, but they try to make him the neutral mask. He's the Luke Skywalker of that story. Mm-hmm. And it works as a story, I think it's more competently made movie than most Star Wars movies. Yeah. But people hated it because it was so different from what they wanted from a Han Solo story.
Well, it was also divisive because they fired the directors.
That's right.
After most of it was shot,
and had Ron
Howard come in and reshoot
it. Yeah, absolutely. And I that movie, I love the way that movie ends. It has a really cool ending. That I was excited to see what was going to happen next, and then we probably never will.
Well, it's the Darth Maul thing, right?
Oh yeah. So spoiler alert: Darth Maul pops up in the last reel.
Since Donald Glover is doing writing the Lando series.
I know, man.
I'm assuming Darth Vader. And by the way, if there was nothing else of worth coming out of Solo, Donald Glover being in the Star Wars universe, let alone playing Lando Calrissian, that is enough.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. And him getting to write the Lando is a series, right? The Lando series after his amazing work on Atlanta. And Lando,
him and his brother Steven.
Yeah. Lando is a similar character to Solo in that he's the cool side character who has a little bit of mystery around him. He's not the plucky hero. And so you need someone who's willing to tell a different kind of story. And Donald Glover is all about breaking the format, understanding the format of what should happen in a story and just fucking off with it, just doing something totally different than what is expected of him. And Atlanta he has whatever 4 seasons of Atlanta, and every one of those episodes is like a movie. It is so well done.
It's 5, but yeah,
is it 5?
One of the best shows that's ever been made.
Yeah, and it's just episode after episode are bangers, but they're not, and they are far from formula. They're so far from formula is what I'm trying to say. That sentence was weird. They're so far from formula, and they're so great. And so him making a Lando series is beyond the best decision they could make. That is so smart.
Yeah.
I hope they give him that control. I hope Ron Howard doesn't come in and finish it for him.
Yeah, I saw that news and I was just oh my God. Yeah. I've gotta catch up now. Hopefully Hero will come back and direct it. His longtime directing partner.
Yeah, man.
Hiro Murai, what I think that's his name?
Okay. I don't know that.
Oh my God. Well, he directs all the
Atlantas.
all the Atlantas.
Cool.
And he's worked with them on other stuff.
That would be awesome.
Anyway, back to Star Trek. Back to Stu. Sorry, Stu.
Oh, I thought we finished Stu's. Sorry.
Oh, no. Stu says this one had some nice dramatic stuff in it, but it feels a little like it was missing something in terms of the plot. M'Benga's killing of Doc Ra and escaping repercussions felt so abrupt, and there wasn't really any major stakes in the present day to Doc Ra being around except everyone's feelings about things. Their performances in the flashbacks are the positives, and the Federation's sense of idealism conflicting with the pain of their people and their sense of what justice is. It's reminiscent of Eddington's speech about why he's a Maquis in Deep Space Nine and how the Federation was so desperate to assimilate everyone into their organization, they'll break bread with the Cardassians. Also, M'Benga hating what he had become during the war is similar to O'Brien saying the same about the Cardis too in that TNG episode. It is pretty funny and noticeable how much they've swerved from sick transporter buffer daughter to you weren't there in the shit, man. You ain't seen what I have. As M'Benga's thing that I don't think his daughter's even been mentioned once this season so far. Him and Chapel being veterans of that has felt a bit ham-fisted included this season, especially when I don't recall either of them being particularly depicted as combat veterans in season 1. He also mentioned, the Mariner mentioned that Boimler was Pike for Halloween once, having to use prosthetics for his jawline. He said that on YouTube on the last episode we did. So
yeah, it's great.
Yeah, Stu, I don't think I agree with you, but even if there are no repercussions, M'Benga's killing of Doc Ra, the way his character has been dissolved. He was a doctor. He is a doctor, but he's broken his Hippocratic oath. Mm-hmm. He's killed. He was the butcher of Jagal.
In his mind, yeah.
In his mind, like the whole bit about the biobed where he's like, you know, some things can't be repaired, only maintained. He is a broken person.
Mm-hmm.
I think if nothing else, the repercussions are there just in that sense, but we don't know that he murdered him. It was probably self-defense.
Oh, I definitely think it was self-defense, but I think it was, as I said at the beginning, this is about premeditated self-defense. It's like the only case, and it's so good.
Yeah.
And that's why this reminds me so much of one of those Rian Johnson mystery stories. It's so, like, I love the twist at the end. And actually, so, like, I definitely understand where Stu's coming from with this feeling unfinished, because it is. But that's what I love about it. And I love that he gets away with it. And to me, if I had to name what the structure of this ending is, it's the end of a heist movie. You know, like we think it's one way this whole time. We think this happened. We think this guy's the butcher of Jagal. We think all these things. And then they show us flashbacks, and then they do a clever thing with the knife. It's like an Ocean's 11 reveal more than it is a Star Trek episode. And I love it.
What I like about, and one of the reasons I hope is it's actually just never addressed again, is because, you know, it's like when Chapel says war doesn't leave you, it can bury itself, but it's always there.
Mm-hmm.
That's exactly just that's perfect. Like, is there's no resolution to this. M'Benga did whatever he had to do. It's always there. He buries it. He buries it under these fluffy Federation ideals, but it's always there.
Yeah.
Lurking, you know, waiting to be outed. Like, I think that's kind of gorgeous. I love that.
I do too. 100% in for that.
Yeah.
I love it.
So, and I do love all of that. Like, I love how the Federation is so desperate to assimilate everybody that they're just willing to break bread with the enemy, and their ideals conflict with human emotions. The people who have had to fight for, you know, the freedom of surviving.
Well, there's so many episodes of Star Trek that are about how the Federation has rules that support their ideals, but do they really? And is following the rules the thing that's going to get you to the ideals? And it's an open question in this episode, because, like, it is very possible that man living could have done more good than him dying. This is not a utilitarian decision. This is you deserve this. This is a punitive decision. And it's also a decision made out of just, like, pure revenge. And, like, he needs to do this. Like, he wants to kill Doc Ra. He won't do it outside the bounds of what he thinks is moral. Like, he still has this line. He's going to make the guy push him to do it, but he's ready to do it and wants to do it. And that is it's so not Federation. You know what I mean? Like, it's so far beyond. Yeah. But at the same time, he knows this guy's out there being a representative of the Federation with pure lies. And it kind of goes to the core of everything the Federation is about, like seeking truth. Like, you seek truth and peace and like all these values. Sometimes they conflict. When peace conflicts with truth, you know, like, what do you choose?
Yeah.
And sometimes peace conflicts with truth. Sometimes the right thing to do is not clear. And it's like being a moral purist can sometimes cause utilitarian damage, but it's also, there's something to be said for having like that moral purity too. And there's something to be said for like, what can you live with? Because I can live with it.
Yeah, absolutely. This was M'Benga's Pale Moonlight, man.
I know, man. I know.
It's so good.
I wanted to say it earlier, but I feel like I bring up Pale Moonlight every week. So like us.
Hey, every good Star Trek fan does.
Yep. All right. I think that's about it for this week, man. You got anything else about this episode?
I don't. All I gotta say is, here's to the safety of the Alpha Quadrant.
Here. All right, guys, we'll be back next week. Hopefully sooner next week. I am moving. This whole season has been a mess with our schedule because of my move and me purchasing this house, and trying to learn how to be a homeowner. And like, it's nuts, and it costs too much money. And please join our Patreon. Oh,
yeah,
wait.
The most surprising thing about this episode was that I was sitting here talking to you. I
actually made it on this episode.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we love
Patreon.
What? Yeah, it was a joke. It was a joke. I said
we do actually, but we haven't. I don't think we've launched it yet.
Oh, we have a Patreon. Okay, well, we should launch that.
I think I started working on it, and then I got distracted because.
Right. Well, let's talk about it.
Shiny objects.
Let's talk about it. We can figure a way to do that.
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
Yeah. Well, that would be cool. Yeah. Much love to all of you. Thank you for hanging out, and we'll be back soon on Star Trek Universe. Jolan True.
Live long and stab Klingons.
I don't think that's how it goes.
It is now.
Thank you for listening to the Star Trek Universe podcast, a Stranded Panda production. If you'd like to hear more from David C. Robertson, check out the DC On Screen podcast or maladjusted.tv for his web videos. If you'd like to hear more from Matthew Carroll, check out the Marvel Cinematic Universe podcast or listen to his music. Just search for Matthew Carroll anywhere you get music.